Thanks for coming to Politics and Life. This is Jordan. I hope all my freedom-loving patriots are having a blessed day. Please like, comment, hit that subscribe button. We have a very viral video that just was released yesterday. It was Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson interview. I'm going to go through the best parts of the interview and react to it with you guys. Please like, comment, hit that subscribe button below. Let's get it started, y'all.
What was about to go on. So I sat back, I looked at it, and I thought years later, how did I come up with that? Because I don't just say a bunch of stuff, then most of it doesn't come true. I'm very specific on predictions, and almost all of them have come true. I thought that it was the spinoff of the X-Files, and I wasn't even an X-Files fan, rarely watched it, called The Lone Gunman, that it turns out had come out in the spring of 2001 that I didn't even learn about because there wasn't, Facebook and Twitter and X back then. So if you didn't watch those entertainment shows, you didn't know about it. And then 6 months or so after 9/11, listeners start saying, have you seen this? And I had listeners send me VHS recordings off Fox TV of this episode where a criminal group in the U.S. government hijacks a jumbo jet in New York to fly it in the World Trade Center to blame it on a Central Asian terrorist so that they have a pretext to take over domestically with a police state and launch wars in the Middle East.
Wait, this was on the X-Files?
Yes, this was on the X-Files. And so later I thought maybe I got it from that. But then we found tapes even earlier, a month before that came out, where I had put it together on the radio. But here's what's crazy. Then I got reached out by some of the hosts of the X-Files saying, hey, Chris Carter told us that the CIA came to him with the plot of this and asked him some of the scripts that they would ask him as a favor to put this in as a TV program. And then later I corresponded with Chris Carter via email. He talked about this in the news, like in entertainment publications, about, Alex Jones is a really good guy. And when they rebooted in 2016 again, he talked about the talk show host characters based on me. So I've talked to him, some of his crew, but he said, no, I don't know why the CIA, you used to interview him, came to me and said, here's the script for this show. So it wasn't just Alex Jones saying that a government agency was going to hijack a jet and fly the World Trade Center.
So it's pretty much saying the X-Files were controlled by the CIA, meaning that it was their own situations that they were in, that they probably made the show about. And also, this was the guy who predicted 9/11 before it happened, which sadly was my birthday. Prayers to all the families who lost loved ones during that time.
The X-Files spinoff, The Lone Gunman, one of its main episodes was about that specific story.
This is just crazy. So I often get, people I know saying,
and they remote control and hijack the jet, the good guys, and keep it from crashing the World Trade Center. So why would the CIA come to Chris Carter and say, we want you to write this? And then it's released months and months before 9/11. So I'm not the only one. It was in the collective unconsciousness. I don't know. But I said 2 weeks before they'd shot Trump in Butler, I went on air and I said they're going to try to shoot him at a rally. That's obvious to see how desperate they were, how the lawfare didn't work. A lot of this is just studying how they operate. But so much of it now is John Podesta in August 2020, the New York Times wrote about it, had a big war game with the top Democrats. And they said if Trump wins, if they weren't able to steal it, in my view, then we're going to have civil war conditions. We're going to have blue states secede, blue cities, and we're going to use social issues to foment a rebellion that we're going to basically frame as racial, George Floyd on steroids, 10.0, and then we're going to drive Trump from office. Well, they were able to steal it, in my view. The evidence, I think, is overwhelming. So they didn't use that plan. Well, they started talking about that plan again in the months before this last election last year. So much of what I'm able to predict isn't really prediction. They admit it. The UN said for 20 years, we're going to use Disease X to bring in a global system, a global central bank digital currency, a global social credit score, a global vaccine ID that will be used as the global internet ID, global taxation ID. That's official. Bill Gates, the UN, all these big bodies preparing how they'd roll this out. The Rockefeller Foundation with Operation Lockstep 2010, 2011, describing locking down the sports stadiums, locking your houses 6 feet apart, wearing masks for fear. Then Bush, George W. had that in the BioShield program that passed in 2005, where they sent out kits, millions of them to everybody, and to the Red Cross with the 6 feet apart, with the mask, with all the stuff. But they didn't launch the bio attack scare that they had, I think, locked and loaded. Then they waited till 2020.
So basically, you're just taking them at their word. You're just paying. You're doing what I don't do enough, which is listen to people.
I always say they tell you exactly what's coming or what they're going to do, especially in these movies.
I disagree with, and sincerely try to assess what they're saying. I mean,
yeah, Fauci just said last week, a much worse, way higher morbidity. It's respiratory. It's coming. And you got hotels. Oh, don't worry. Trump's going to have a big problem. It's going to come crashing in on him. We'll see how he tries to reboot the economy. And then you learn Fauci and all of them are involved with Obama and Chapel Hill and North Carolina creating COVID-19. It was a big scandal, 2015, gain of function, SARS. And then they move it to Wuhan to plausible deniability so they can kind of blame the Chinese if they want. I'm not saying the Chinese are good. The Communist Chinese are terrible. And it was kind of a joint project. And then they roll it out. Then they've got their so-called shot that's mRNA. I mean, this stuff is all very well planned. And so when you see him up there lying going, no, Senator Paul, it is you that is wrong. No gain of function. Then it's in all his emails. This is gain of function. And he has public symposiums in defense of gain of function. I mean, he's Mr. Gain of Function. If he was a superhero, he would just, have gain of function on his chest and the back of his cape. And he's like, I don't know anything about that. And so, I mean, these guys just treat us like children. And so they kept saying, we're going to use a virus. We're going to use a scare to bring in our global government. I remember Lou Dobbs and Judicial Watch 2006 sued to get North American Union documents. And in it, they're meeting up in Banff, Canada. And they're like, we're going to use collapsing migration flow from a virus to flood the West and use that crisis to bring in a new Marshall Plan. We're going to use a disease X to, finally get the world to accept this global government. So they're just scheming constantly. They have Event 201.
But in public.
In public. They have the SPARS war game 2025, 2028 that came out a few years before 2020 in the viral release that is actually set in 2020 to 2024. And it rolls out how they're all going to do it. The tweets that are in there are almost word for word. They just changed the name SPARS to COVID-19. So it's a blueprint. And then if they get caught, it's not a viral attack plan. It's just a war game. But the war game matches the exact rollout of the attack, so they're all on script.
So in a normal world that rewarded, excellence and prescience, you'd be a billionaire because of your predictive powers. I mean, huge companies, governments hire people who can piece together fragments of evidence to create an accurate picture of the future. That's a huge business. I know a lot of people in that business. George Friedman, guys like that are really, really smart people. But you've got the best track record of all. And I think it's so telling that rather than reward you for this or call you up and be like, Alex Jones, you're like, what do you think's coming next? They're like, no, we must eliminate our own First Amendment to destroy your life, which is what they've done. That seems like a pretty clear indicator of their guilt to me.
Well, what they don't want is compartmentalize good people in industry and government, not just everywhere around the world, to listen to what I'm saying, go check it out for themselves, find out everything I just said is on record. Anybody can just type in anything I said, and it's from their own documents. And then people will basically put the glasses on like they live and see it for themselves. I'm not telling them what to see like the corporate media does, brainwashing people and selling them a lie that two men can have a baby and there's no X and Y chromosomes and communism's great and open borders are wonderful. No, I mean, I'm simply saying, see this for yourself. I liken it to those hidden image paintings. And when you first can't see the hidden image, you're like, I can't see. Once you do see it, you can't unsee it. So I'm only trying to get people to go look at what I'm pointing out and find out. I liken this whole thing to you have the adult table with the CFR, the Club of Rome, the WF, and the UN, the think tanks, the RAND Corporation, and they're at the adult table at Thanksgiving, and the general public and even a lot of the politicians are compartmentalized and naive. We're over at the kids' table, and we'd actually listen to what the adult table, because that's their arrogance. They admit 99% of this in their own battle plans.
That's true.
As if we are too lazy or stupid to ever go look at it. And that's part of a confidence game they have with their own people, their own corporate intelligence operatives, their own government intelligence operatives, their own networks, where they just basically admit all this stuff out in the open. I mean, it's like, Mudd from the CIA on CNN saying, Foggy Bottom's going to kill this guy. We're going to kill Trump. And then Trump had called me, this is back in his first administration. I said, listen, you need to watch out. They've got Phil Mudd and all these other guys on CNN, MSNBC saying they're going to kill you. And he goes, just a moment. He goes, I'm going to have the Secret Service call you. In about an hour, they call and they go, what's going on, Alex? Trump told us to call you. And I said, you don't know about this. So he goes, here's our email. And I sent the Secret Service this. as if the Secret Service doesn't know they were all over TV.
That's what I'm saying. You can't even trust the Secret Service, man. Trump, I hope he has a strong team around him that he could trust.
Saying we're going to kill Trump. So
it's
I mean,
possible they caught that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Trump didn't catch it. And I mean, now they're everywhere. You've got this new Rutgers study out where 55% of Democrats, liberals are asked, do you support Trump being killed? They're like, yes, we want him dead. He should be assassinated. This is like this week, and came out over the weekend. And they asked him, so do you see yourself as part of a assassination culture? And they said, yes. So, but then if you say, oh, the Democrats are fomenting violence, I mean, The View says all the time, he's killing people. Elon's killing people. They don't say how. They're stealing your Social Security. They're killing old ladies. And so we need to be ready to fight and die to take this guy out. Those are quotes.
Yep.
And then they just sit back and go, oh, no. We're not calling for violence with Crockett and all of them, but they're not going to do it. They want lone nuts to do it because their other wind-up operatives like Crooks and the other guy here in Florida failed. But, I mean, they are crazy. And if the establishment, or what's left of it's falling apart, thinks killing Trump is going to help them, they're delusional, because if you look at all the scenarios that come out of that, it's much worse for them.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
Not all sleep aids are.
There would be, no, I mean, there already is an awakening, but the fact that the left thinks they could talk about Trump, lie, and just think that people are going to fall for it like they've been. I mean, it's a very small minority at this point voting for the left. I truly believe that. And people are waking up, and the Democrats are the party of violence. We have BLM, we have Antifa, we have the Palestine protests, we have Pride where they're grooming kids. I mean, it goes on. And teachers union grooming kids, teaching them Marxism in schools and DEI and all this nonsense. They are the communist tyrants.
EU is refusing to end the war. We're trying to drag us into it fully. They're arresting their political opposition, Călin Georgescu in Romania. They're not letting him run in the new election.
He's an amazing man. I just talked to him.
Amazing.
Day before yesterday.
And then Marine Le Pen, that is super popular in the head presidential polls. So they have a judge find her guilty of nothing and take her off the ballot. You have the State Department under Biden admittedly working in Brazil with Lula to take Bolsonaro off the ballot because he's popular and then indict him. And they're talking about doing it in Hungary. They're talking about doing it in Poland. They said if AfD won, which they almost did, that the EU Commission might cancel that election. So the EU is really taken off the mask. And people that don't know, it was set up in 1956 as a steel deal, Treaty of Rome. And they got the nations over time to sign away their sovereignty to it. And,
I remember.
And an unelected commission with van der Leyen, up there running all of this. And she even came out, as you know, on Monday and said, well, Trump's blown up the international order. He's defeated the New World Order. And she said, okay, we're going to go ahead and agree, at least in principle, to what Trump is saying. And that's because the trade is completely one-sided. So again, Trump's move isn't just the perfect move. It's perfect in that it's the only moves we have left for us and for global stabilization. That's why anybody that cares about self-preservation for the whole planet should be fully behind Trump's policies that are very popular around the world and are seen as sane. And again, the world, this huge alliance of nations, wants to join that team. And the good news is Trump's polls are the highest ever. I know the American people are understanding that and getting that. The concern is,
it is kind of crazy that his number. I mean, I'm getting because I live in a rich people world for part of the year. I know a lot of rich people, and boy, they're really upset. And I share their instinctive concern about any chaos. My parents got divorced. I hate chaos, right? Mm-hmm. So I get that. But from my perspective, I'll just admit it, like on my phone, it's like, I voted for Trump. What the hell's going on? And I get it. I'm not, criticizing anyone. But then his numbers go up.
Well, I'd like
to. It shows you that you can, even I really make a big effort to like live in different places, know different people, not be a captive of my surroundings, not just live among rich people with like dumb rich people attitudes. Like really try to be bigger than that. And I always flatter myself that I succeed. But even I am like, I guess, kind of captive to that, because then I see the numbers and I'm like, people really like this.
Yep.
His numbers went up after
the thing is, big media is 90% in the pockets of the Democrat Party, and people are turning off big media like never before and turning on places like me, even though I'm still growing my channel, places like Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith, Joe Rogan. I mean, they are bigger channels, but I mean, they're listening to people like that instead of the big media, which is propaganda paid for through your taxpayer, through USAID, which has been exposed thanks to Elon Musk.
Tariffs. That's correct. Right.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, I'd like to talk to folks out there saying Trump is being a destabilizer. The globalist order was collapsing by their own corruption and mismanagement and their alliance with China being double-crossed. And so that old order was already being collapsed by them. And Trump's coming in very pragmatically with a good, fair, freedom-based, meritocracy, competition-based system. But to people that want to talk about destabilization, starting the war with Russia, total destabilization. Dissolving the borders and all the human smuggling and the fentanyl,
exactly.
Total destabilization, in engaging in all this overspending and the country basically being bankrupt if we don't grow our way out of it, total destabilization. And then wink, wink, the attempted assassinations of Trump. What do they think would have happened if Trump really would have gotten killed in Pennsylvania in July of last year or a few months later in Florida? If you look at the scenarios there, they run from bad to worse. So the real destabilization.
And bad for the people behind it. Like, clearly those assassinations were not lone gunmen. They were part of a much, much larger conspiracy, obviously. Everyone knows that. But those people behind those attempted murders would have been in bigger trouble had those murders succeeded, attempted murders succeeded, correct?
Absolutely. And if somebody's able to kill Trump now, people better hope he doesn't get struck by a bolt of lightning, because the bad guys will get the blame. And that's why so many people that have kind of been on the fence, the establishment, but we're working with the globalists just because that was the system, are enthusiastically joining Trump and Elon because they understand that this is the only game in town for people that aren't delusional. But you have that megalomania. And
I think that's so true. Yeah.
You have that megalomania historically when elites have never lost before and are losing, that they just continue to accelerate and intensify it. And I know you've covered this. A lot of the people don't seem to know that in August of 2020, I mentioned it earlier, there was a big article in the New York Times with John Podesta covering a war game they just had, that if Trump was able to win, they were going to have blue states secede and blue cities secede and then create civil unrest and civil war conditions. And then when they knew Trump was going to win, because the poll numbers were so incredible a few months before the last election last year, Raskin, Carville, Podesta, all of them said civil war conditions. We're going to need to have uprisings. Carville said that.
And the Party of Democracy and Accepting election results also said that they were going to protest and go against the will of the people because they knew that Trump was going to win the election. These people need to get arrested. Pam Bondi needs to get off her ass and start prosecuting these Democrats. I feel like there's so much more than enough to prosecute the Democrat Party in regards to corruption, spending our taxpayers' money into oblivion, open borders, giving these illegals with their taxes, free everything. I mean, where do you need to start? I feel like she is more than enough to prosecute these globalists at this point.
Trump's coming to kill you. We got to rise up, Carville said, and others. And they are clearly escalating with the Tesla attacks and the swatting attacks,
George Soros,
and the calls for violence. The 55% of liberal Democrats in a study want Trump killed. They are embracing real terrorism, real domestic terrorism, and that's building towards what I believe is in the cards, because you see the Democrat pundits and their operatives everywhere before the election and after it in the last 78 days or so, saying once he got in office, Trump and Tom Homan are going to kill migrants. And when they do, there's going to be an uprising. And well, Trump's not going to go mow down people at an illegal alien demonstration. You also have them saying Trump supporters are going to attack black people. Well, where would black people be alone in big numbers? A church, university. Trump supporters are going to kill black people. And we know a lot of the globalist groups have been funding white supremacist groups and domestic terror groups and basically run them historically. So the last piece with all the pre-programming I've seen is that to have these uprisings, we're going to need something much bigger than George Floyd, much bigger than Jesse Smollett. And so I am predicting on the current trajectory of what they wargamed before and what they said, the final piece they need for this destabilization that they'll label a race-based civil war that will then crash the markets and be used kind of like their predictive programming in the movie that came out last year, Civil War, to have a bunch of states and the main military join them in a military operation to remove Trump when the Trumpian figure in the movie is killed, and executed inside the Oval Office. And so that's their
But
dream.
we're the party on the right that incites violence, according to the left. Pathetic.
That's their backup plan. You have the two camps. One camp is kind of the Chucky Schumer. It's completely evil, but isn't particularly publicly pushing that, though he had his famous whirlwind, we're coming after you speech.
But he's an old man.
Absolutely. So you have the Soros wing with Alexander Soros that more and more is in charge and is really making a run at escalating domestic unrest and terrorism, leading into some triggering event, starting. Things are aligning for this summer. And I know that folks in the government that are patriots are aware of that, but I think that the spokespersons and others need to really get ahead of all this calls for violence and not just repudiate it, but talk about the Democrat leadership and their talking heads.
Also, supposedly Trump and Elon found trackings in regards to where this money is being spent right back to the Democrat Party, and something huge is going to be exposed soon. They should just release it now. If you have the evidence, release it. Start locking these people up before it's too late. I mean, they're literally trying to take out the president. They're attacking police officers. They're rioting in the streets. It's too much. We need law and order back now. Push it hard.
They're pushing it. I mean, we've seen Colbert just last week say, deep state, please, do something, stop Trump. And so that's where we are. So they want to expand war to try to take control of the agenda. They've been hyping a new virus being released to try to stop Trump's reboot of our economy because they think that would stop this populist revolution. In Europe, it's arresting their political opposition and stopping elections. They also have Europe trying to sue Elon Musk and billion-dollar fines, trying to shut him down, like we saw with Brazil. So those are the different strategies. They're also doing big put options and naked shorts, trying to crash the market, and then blaming Trump's tariffs on that. So it's economic terrorism, the buildup of domestic terrorism, the false flags that can be used, a nuclear false flag to get us into direct war with Russia, a new viral release. Those are the things they've got set up, ready to go, and that they've said before they would use to maintain control.
Everybody loves and appreciates.
Wow. I mean, that is insane, guys. We need some law and order to come back and knock these Democrats and put them back in place.
Suing me and this whole saga, we now have basically all the pieces of exactly what happened. I told you some about it last night. It would take a few minutes, but I could just give people a basic summation of what's happened.
Yeah, please.
But first, just an example of free speech. In Texas, there's famous cases where they take people's small children because the school secretly convinces them with grant money, they get paid for it, public and private, that a little boy's really a girl, a little girl's really a boy. Then the parents find out the school's been putting them in a database, giving them a social worker, sending them to special school times with peer pressure of other kids that have been put in the cult for sterilization, transhumanism. And then they take the person's child, saying it's abuse, when you argue, my son is really a boy, not a girl. Well, now Colorado in the House, as you know, just passed the bill. It's in the Senate, and they allowed no debate, saying that if a parent finds out their kid is being brainwashed and says, no, my son is a boy, my girl's a girl, that is abuse, and they're going to officially take your child. Other states have passed laws like Oregon and Washington. So you talk about free speech. This is beyond that. This is parental rights. This is everything. Now say parents can't argue and say to the state that has determined that your child's another sex. And then in places like New Jersey and other states, the hospital systems now have on the form when your child's born dozens of things, transgender, all these other names, gender queer, all these things where the parents pick at birth what the baby's going to be and say this. So if the state wants to come and say they're another sex, that's okay. If parents don't like it, their kid gets taken in these areas. That's where this is going. It's already happening. But if the parents want to opt in, they can decide for their child. So as long as you decide that we're going to chemically and then medically sterilize surgically this poor little person that's being put into this death cult, then it's okay. The only thing you're not allowed to say is no. I say no to this designation. So that's where Alex Jones having his speech massively attacked goes. So it's a long story, but here's the summation. I didn't understand, even though I know a lot of things about politics in the world, I didn't understand how PR firms work, how law firms work, how the deep state was operating. And they later admitted, even on MSNBC, that a few years ago, we've been successful with Alex Jones. Next, we're going to do it with people like Tucker Carlson. And they mentioned you. So Hillary knows she's in trouble. 2 months before the election, 2016, she does a $20+ million ad buy talking about me and twisting what I had said about that event in Connecticut, that mass shooting. And then in the ad, she says, Alex Jones is Trump's brain. This is the guy that Trump says is an amazing person. We'll be talking a lot. You're a great guy. And they show that clip of Trump on my show saying that. So they created a demonized version of me to attack Trump. Then that made me this huge demon with the left even more. Then for 2 years, articles every day, sometimes dozens a day, TV shows, programs, PBS, CNN, MSNBC, every channel, foreign news, Tokyo news, Russian news. It was being pushed everywhere. Alex Jones is bullying kids, parents of dead kids. Alex Jones is sending people to pee on graves. None of that ever even happened, much less me. And then they sue me, and then they want all this discovery, and they say, who do you work for? Who's telling you what to do in the Republicans in all these depositions? Of course, it wasn't there. So they hold me in default for saying I didn't give them my secret plan to get rich off these people that I barely ever even talked about. They put 22 minutes of evidence in the Texas show trial where I was found guilty by the judge and the Connecticut show trial that were only a month apart in 2022 in the fall. So I go in, HBO's producing it, cameras, putting makeup on the judges. I'm given 20+ things I can't talk about. My lawyers are sanctioned if they try to raise that. Well, where did Alex Jones say this? Where did he do this? No evidence could be showed to counter them. They could just say whatever they wanted to. And then they have $1.5 billion judgment in Connecticut. They have a $50 million judgment total, or $49 million in Texas, because I'm already found guilty. Then the judge tells them to say how guilty I am. They lie and totally exaggerate all the money I have. Say I got it from these people with no evidence. And so I knew I was being railroaded for my speech. They said in the Connecticut trial and in the Texas show trial and on the courthouse steps, we don't want money for Mr. Jones. We want to shut him down. They said that in court filings. So I go into bankruptcy because I'm out of money personally, never had all this money, they said, not even a fraction of it. And so for 3 years, I'm in bankruptcy. And they keep going and say, we don't want money. We want him closed. The judge keeps saying, no, you have to actually, do a settlement with him, or we have to sell InfoWars. And
this is all because you said something that other people said they were offended by?
Yes, but
how can you, I don't understand in a free country how other people being offended by what you say can have you destroyed by the state.
Well, it's more than that. They said I sent people to their houses. I peed on graves. All this stuff that nobody did.
Why weren't you arrested? You can't pee on a grave. Why weren't you arrested?
Been to Connecticut.
Why weren't you arrested for peeing on the grave?
Out of the people that sued me, I only said the name of one of the people ever.
If you commit a crime, you should be criminally charged for it, and the state has to prove that you did it, at which point you're convicted and punished. If the state accuses you of something but doesn't charge you with it, they're fucking liars. Like, by definition, they don't, that's not on the list of options.
But unfortunately, these days, the court systems have been so corrupted. I live in California, and I have zero trust on the court system. They will do whatever they're told. There are some good judges. That doesn't mean there aren't some good actors, but I mean, the majority of them are just bought and paid for, it seems like.
Can just discredit you, attack your character, destroy you. No. The state has one option. If you committed a crime, they charge you with the crime and they prove you did the crime. It's that simple.
That's right. And I never got investigated for stalking or anything because I did nothing
for any crime.
So here's where it gets crazy. Here's what we've learned since they had the show trials.
I noticed none of the libertarians defended you either. Where was the Reason Foundation and Cato and all these supposedly freedom-minded nonprofits who are just freaking liars? Like, none of them defended you that I know of.
Bare minimum, they were bought off or they wanted to keep their head down. So here's what we learned. The Democratic Party and the Justice Department, the FBI and the CIA, this has come out in court, come out in documents now. We've got it all. I published it at InfoWars. They can be shut down literally in days now. We're finally up to the wire today with this big ruling. But it's the truth's out there, but they don't want you to know it. So they come after me to demonize Trump. Then they run ads on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere for the 2 years before they sue me, 2017, 2018, saying I'm attacking him, saying I'm coming after him, using my name to raise money. Okay, and it turns out hundreds of millions using my name. This has come out. Saying I'm victimizing him and then never showing what I supposedly did. Just, this man's hurting us, help us, help us. Then I was already taken off the internet after that for other reasons that they cooked up. They had Lester Holt get up on TV and say, Alex Jones called for people to get battle rifles and go attack Democrats. No, I talked about them, Antifa attacking your house, and how they were planning to attack more people's houses. And I said, none of us are going to be violent. But I said,
Antifa are such pussies, sorry for my language, but these people just go around causing havoc and burning down businesses. the BLM movement was such a damn scam. And then every 3 to 5 months, they have a new movement. It seems like the Palestine protests where they were attacking police officers, BLM where they were burning down even included black-owned businesses while saying Black Lives Matter. How about the Pride protests that were in San Francisco, my state, where they were having fetish pools, where they were peeing in these little pools while children were present? The left celebrates all that garbage nonsense. But we are the crazy ones because January 6th that's all the left has at this point.
Everybody needs to have their battle rifle ready or their shotgun in their home if the left comes to kill you.
Well, as someone whose house was attacked by Antifa, I agree completely.
But then Holt never showed what I supposedly said.
Right.
He just said straight up. Okay, so I wasn't even taken off the internet for Sandy Hook because I wasn't even known for that. Okay, barely ever talked about it. Then they sue me. Then they run more PR. Then they raise more money off of me. And then when they didn't find anything in their all their discovery, because there was nothing that I did, then they have the judges both find me in default, coordinate for both trials to be held in a 1.5-month period in late 2022. And then right after they win, the jury's fined for all this money. They come back and they say, that's not enough, Your Honor. We want 2.75 trillion. That's the GDP of India. People don't believe that. Just type in Alex.
For free speech. He said this because he was a little off and didn't agree with how the shooting took place, which, yeah, sure, he was definitely wrong, which he's apologized. I've seen him 20 times at least on live camera doing that. He owes them trillions. He wasn't even there present at the time. That's not free speech.
Jones, Sandy Hook, 2.75 trillion. And so the judge said, no, you just get 1.5 billion.
In retrospect, did you ever think when they awarded a judgment against you equivalent to the GDP of India, did you ever think maybe I should keep my visions to myself and not next time I see 9/11 coming, I just shouldn't say anything because people who predict the future accurately are always punished for it?
I think that's, what I realized was I've got something important to say, so I better say it even louder because the evil wants this shut down. But
Clearly,
just to finish the key part, I'm telling
sorry.
No.
It's making me upset hearing this.
No. I'm saying I haven't gotten to the big stuff. I'm just giving people the background.
This is not the country I grew up in at all. Just saying that. Sorry.
Well, no, you're right. Thank you for the platform. No, thank you, Tucker. And I told you all this last night. It took 30 minutes. Let me just try to condense it. So I know they're trying to demonize me to get at Trump. I know they're trying to set the precedent to shut down everybody else. And once I'm demonized, they think nobody will defend me, and that sets the precedent.
They're doing what they did to Alex Jones to Laura Loomer right now. If you guys know who Laura Loomer is, she's been exposing a lot, and actually people in the Trump current administration that haven't been vetoed correctly.
They did all that. Then when they win the show trial that was already fixed, these PR firms come out in New York and Connecticut and go, we've been doing this for years. We exposed Jones. We did this. We helped get this big win, blah, blah, blah. Then this undercover video comes out that is in a predator sexting trolling operation in D.C., which the guy was never implicated in, but that's how he got caught up with the trolling operation. This Oblevis person, CIA and FBI, it's confirmed, says, well, we investigated Alex Jones for years at the FBI. Then he went on to CIA. That's where he's currently. And he said, we couldn't find anything criminal on him. So we went to the Sandy Hook people with law firms and we developed this plan with this narrative to take him down. And now we're in the process of shutting him down. And the person says, well, are you still trying to put him in prison? No, we've just destroyed his name and destroyed who he is. It's all on video. It's online. Just type in FBI, CIA agent, admits to running Sandy Hook frame job of Alex Jones.
We recommend you take this moment to do what we're about to do, which is...
All right, guys, those were the favorite 3 clips of the whole video. I will be doing a live video of the whole entire interview today. Please like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel and my other content channels. Love you guys. Stay blessed. Have a great day. Peace.